Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Bravo, We're Black. Today we have a very special guest, and y'all know this is our pop culture episode, so we're going to go off into pop culture, we're going to go off into Star Wars, we're going to go off into a lot of stuff. We got Krystina Arielle, host of the High Republic show. I'm so happy to finally meet you and be face to face.
I'm so excited. I love you guys so much. And just like also last year, your coverage of the Married to Medicine panel was very important to me. Mm-hmm. So, you guys, I'm like, you guys were on Bitch Sesh, and I'm just like, those are my babies. I love you guys. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
I love you so much. Obviously, you guys noticed that I was shutting the fuck up. I never shut up. I was chewing a piece of chicken from my pot pie that I got out of the microwave, and because I have not eaten all day. And I just want to thank you for literally coming on here, because you are literally famous. Like Aaron said, you have your own thing going. You're in with Disney. You're in with Star Wars. You are also a housewives expert, a pop culture expert. You're gorgeous, proud Black woman. Your threads are hilarious. I mean, your thoughts are hilarious. It's just such an honor to have you. And I remember at the top of the year, we discussed you coming on, and time was ticking. So I'm like, Aaron, we got to get Krystina on immediately, because you were on our cousin podcast, Kendrick podcast. And that was a great episode. We all love Kendrick. And now we finally have you. So now that we got you, every time we get someone, we're like, you're coming back, right? Because you're the one to have. I'm just so grateful that you're here. You said yes, and this will be the first of many stops at Bravo, We're Black. Because Bravo, you're Black. We are back and we are Black.
Oh man, this is so exciting. There's so much joy rapture.
We love it. And I'm actually amazed at how you can be into all of this and host a whole show and be a Housewives expert and be a Star Wars expert. It's like with me, I'm like, I gotta pick at least half of one and then half of the other.
Well, I had 2 children in the last 4 years, so I had a lot of baby laying on me deep into it, but I've been into it for so long. I love my Bravo shows. I love all of it. And I spend so much of it's connected, right? When you think about it, you have representation from almost everything across media in the Housewives, because you have housewives that have been married to professional athletes or a couple. And then you have your housewives who were in Marvel, like Lisa Rinna and Garcelle Beauvais, of course. And so there's so many of those different little connections that go across pop culture, and Bravo is at the center of all of them. And you can pretty much connect anything, kind of like how you can connect most things to One Tree Hill. You can also do the same thing with Real Housewives, because there is a connection that will lead you back to almost every road. And it goes back, of course, to that founding of those tenets on Queer Eye for the Straight Guy, all those things that made Bravo. This little world is actually this gigantic, intricate galaxy of things and pop culture and relevant moments. Think about how Nene has not been on the show in a couple of years, but she's still at the center of the zeitgeist of all these things to Housewives. It's impressive to me. It's interesting.
Speaking of galaxy, that's the only Star Wars reference I'll have this whole this whole episode, because I have never seen a movie. I've never seen a show. I just watched when you talked, and when you had a huge interview with some fine white man. I think his name was Christian.
Hayden Christensen. Darth Vader himself.
I was like, Darth Vader is hot. He's not a father, he's a daddy. But it was mainly the way that you handled that interview, because I know that you were a super fan. So that was the equivalent of us basically talking to a Nene. And the way that you handled it was so amazing to see, the way that you handled the crowd, the excitement around it, the way you gave him his flowers, and you also asked the questions that needed to be asked. And you could tell that he was really like into the conversation. So when we have these interviews with people, I try to channel you a bit, especially since I saw that live interview of you. That was like so dope. But what we want to do is obviously at the beginning of each episode of the pop culture episodes, we're going to talk a lot about Bravo in this one just because we have you here. But we have our Black Excellence Awards. If you guys don't already know, if you're listening, if you're watching, hello. But I want to give you our Black Excellence Award for this week. Yes, just because I want to give you your flowers, and like you do so much, and you're in a space that is made up of, for lack of a better description, old white men. And you are, and there's nothing wrong with that, old white men. Like, but you are representing other people who are also into the same thing. And you do it so well. I'm always so proud, even though I don't understand what's going on. I'm always so proud to see someone who looks like me, like, do the damn thing, and you know your stuff. And it's just so good to see. So you are our Black Excellence Award of the week. And thank you so much for putting on and putting up and coming here and just being you.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm like, I wasn't expecting that. So that means a lot. Like, I love what I do. Like, my whole thing has been, I don't want to work in an office. I don't want to do these different things. Like, oh, I'm freezing up a little bit. Sorry. Ooh.
I can see you.
Okay, there we go. I think just being in that space and understanding, a lot of people may not want me in that space, but I'm there because I earned my seat. I'm there because I know what I'm talking about and because I love what I do. To be able to sit in that interview, so much of having an interview is just having a conversation with someone. And if you can't look at it like that and you're looking at this person like, yes, I am a super fan. And a lot of people look at fans so derisively, like, oh, she's a fan. Oh, she's a fan. Yeah, you don't exist without fans. You don't exist. Like, if no one cares about what you're doing, it's just like, yeah, I'm going to talk about my work. I'm going to talk about the things that I do because I put a lot of work into it. And if I'm not cheering for myself, why should anybody else cheer for me? Like, I'm going to put my work out there and I'm going to continue to say, like, I believe in this, so you should believe in it too. And that's my whole MO, is like, I love what I do and I just want to give people their flowers. I am in a very unique position where I get to meet a lot of my heroes. And if I have that moment to tell you that you mattered to me, to tell you like this affected my life, like we just went through this like horrific past few years, and life, if you're a millennial, like geez, bang, bang, it's like over and over nonsense. Like, life is short. Life is very, very short. And I'm going to go take the picture. I'm going to show the adventure. I'm going to talk to the person. I'm going to tell them my feelings about it. I'm going to hear about their stories from their lips and learn about them, because I'm talking to somebody I've wanted to talk to my entire life. Like, I'm going to appreciate that moment and that time that they're giving their energy to me in this conversation. And there are little girls that I was one of them, like seeing Nichelle Nichols gave Whoopi Goldberg permission to go and do Star Trek. Like, seeing someone in that position looks like you gives you this inherent permission that it is possible for me too. And I'm not out here like, I represent everybody. Like, I know, like, I am here and I am doing what I love. And I hope that other people will go and authentically find the thing that they love to talk about, no matter how weird anyone thinks it is, no matter how it doesn't make sense to anyone else. If it makes sense to you, it is not hurting anyone. Like, go do your thing, follow your joy.
Oh my God.
That was beautiful.
So beautifully. Exactly.
Yes.
And it's like, I see myself in you so much, because it takes a certain kind of person who looks, well, me and Aaron talked about this before in our pop culture episode. A lot of the times, just like Tyler the Creator said, a lot of the times we're too Black for the white kids, but too white for the Black kids. And at the end of the day, it's like, we can talk about hip hop and rap and Zeus and all these things, but we can also talk about the really nerdy things, video games, Harry Potter, things that you wouldn't think just looking at us that we may be into. And it's like, no one is just a monolith. And Black people aren't just a monolith. Not saying that you represent all Black people, but it is representation that we need. And I just so enjoyed seeing you do it, and we're so grateful for it. And then you said that you had 2 kids, and those kids are going to look up to you, and they're going to see my mom is such a badass. It's just so dope to see. So I want to know, like, how did you get to where you are now?
Oh, a lot of good timing, I guess. So ultimately, I feel like it's a new audience, but I've told the story before, so I feel like I'm being repetitive, but I'm not being repetitive. It's just my story. So I moved here from Columbus, Georgia in 2014. I like had sold cars. I was like bartending, all this stuff. And one day I was just like, I'm not happy. And I was like, Lord, if you open a window, I will jump out it. You open a door, I'll run through it, but I cannot be here anymore. And I got a call the next day that my job was going out of business. And so I was like, all right, there's my sign. And I was like, I'm going to put it on Facebook and hold myself accountable. I'm moving to LA November 4th. Like, fortunately, my mom had like relocated here, like her life was here. And so I like was like moved out here with her, drove cross country with my friend Brooke, and like got here and was like, I don't know what's next. And I ended up meeting my husband the next month. And then we like fell into our little life, and I'm like working at a bar in Hollywood and like doing all this stuff. And then I started working for like in real estate. Fun fact, I did Chriselle's new member orientation back in the day, and it was really cool. So every time people say that Chriselle is not a realtor, they're a liar. Chriselle sat in that class, and she was attentive and so kind, and she let me fangirl over all my children to her. So I ride for Chriselle.
Oh my God, the Selling Sunset connection. Aaron does not watch, but he knows how much I'm obsessed with it. So that's why
my sister is a Selling Sunset girly.
Because I am online defending these women. Like
she goes to bat for Selling Sunset.
Yeah.
Listen, I respect it. But it's okay. So do that, meet my husband, fall into life, get married. In like 2017, I was like, man, when I moved out here, I had my comic books and my books, my costumes, and my clothes. And I was like, well, I'm going to do cosplay. But it was like, if I'm going to come out of the gate like swinging. And so I did. I came out like the first convention I did like the Gwynnm with the veins coming out of my face. Like I'd already started doing I'd done Star Trek for a while as Lieutenant Uhura. And then I got my first like Hollywood job, as I call it, in a video playing Lieutenant Uhura. And I was like, I stood on that set that day and I was like, if I never do another thing in Hollywood, if nothing comes from this, I just want Nichelle Nichols to know that it exists. So probably like a month later, I'm doing a convention with Iona Morris, who was the voice of Storm in X-Men the animated series. She's fantastic. She also was the coach on Blackish for the kids. Like she was the acting coach. She's fantastic. And she also was on Star Trek when she was little, along with her brother, who also played the Johnny Cochran type character on Seinfeld. So those are some fun little facts. But
that's so
it was wild. So who's at the booth next to us? Nichelle Nichols. The first day I'm in Star Trek cosplay, and she's like, you got on my outfit. Pew, 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 pew. And she was like making little finger guns at me. And the next day the video came out. And so I got to watch the video of me playing her for the first time with her. And I was like, that's one of those little moments, like clock this moment, like live in this moment. And that's what I kind of keep doing is like, I'm not necessarily trying to get anywhere. Like I'm just doing the thing that I love. And so like from that, I was like, I'm just going to keep doing it. Start doing cosplay, end up in Cosplay Culture magazine. I did a thing with BuzzFeed. One Black woman turns into 4 superheroes, and did like Riri Williams and Nubia, who with like the origin story of Wonder Woman. It's really actually kind of funny because back in the day, whenever like Wonder Woman, Diana's twin came, her name was Nubia. And she always greeted her the exact same way in these early comics. She said, Nubia, my Black sister. And then you would get the background on the story that Hippolyta had taken 2 forms of clay, and she made Diana and Nubia, and they were formed from like the same model of clay. So like we told the story of that, and Storm, and just like these powerful Black women. Continue doing that, and then keep cosplaying. Cosplaying turns into hosting, started doing like Nerdist pop-ups, and then went from doing that to playing Dungeons and Dragons professionally. And so I like started doing that and started playing with like Critical Role and Dimension 20 and doing like comedy with Dropout TV on Actually, which is where I don't know if you've seen the clips, like the Real Housewives episode. It's not a Real Housewives episode, but it's our themed episode. We've done 2 so far as the reality TV themed episodes where we talk about all that.
You
and
get
then
activated when they ask about Real Housewives.
Oh my gosh. I feel that in my soul. And like, if I'm going to get a platform to talk about Candace Bassett, like I'm going to do it. And I'm going to sing Drive Back. I pulled into that parking lot for real, like playing Drive Back that day. And I was like, I'm going to win. Like the power of Candace compels me. I'm about to win. And I did. So, but I started doing that. And then I got Star Wars, and I've been with Star Wars now since 2021. And yeah, I'm still like hosting, and now I do Star Wars Celebration. I got to go to London in April to host Star Wars Celebration, which is where that Hayden Christensen interview came from. I feel like I'm talking about myself too much, and I know that you asked me about myself, but I'm also like, I talk. But no, yeah, I love that. Then I did Headless, so I got into like acting with that series that's on YouTube. It's like a 10-part series. You can watch like all 10 episodes in the time it takes to watch a movie. It's like 2.5 hours. But yeah, so now I just play D&D and act and host, and I'm going to do D&D in a castle in Ohio. Like I'm hosting in a castle. Stuff is wild.
That is so amazing. Like, go ahead, Aaron, before I...
No, I want to ask too, being a Star Wars Battlefront 2 person, specifically for like back in the day, not when they remade it. Did you play any of that, like Battlefront?
Oh no, I am a book girl. As far as I'm a book girl. I'm a movies and comics and all of that stuff. And I feel like a lot of like there's so much stuff. There's so much stuff. Like if you look behind me, like this and like all of that over is just like Star Wars bloodlines and brotherhood and like the princess and the scoundrel. It's just like I'm gonna show you. Like you think I'm playing? Like that is all.
God.
So video games and otherwise, sometimes I have to make a choice, and it's a lot easier for me to like have kids and audiobook or read a book than play a video game where they're going to be like, let me have a turn. Like, no, it's not your turn.
What would you say you are? Because I've been thinking about this question too. If we were living in the Star Wars world, I don't even know what the world is called, but the world of Star Wars, would you be a Jedi or would you be a Sith Lord?
Oh, that's fun. So I would definitely be a Jedi. And fun fact, in Phase 3 of the High Republic, Jedi Master Keith Trennis, if you notice her hairstyles and her face is me. So she is modeled after me. So I am technically already a Jedi, and I was in Obi-Wan Kenobi, and my character Tiga Kriel in a book that came out today. She's like in there. So I've been a rebel. I've been a Jedi. I feel like I'd make a really great Sith though, because I can be scary.
Same. I would like to do the Sith. What about you, Kay? What would you say? So to make it easier, because
okay, dark side or light side?
Yeah.
Like are you a Darth Vader post all the stuff, or are you a Anakin, like an aspiring Jedi, like you want to do good and go help the galaxy?
Okay, so you know when you go to Disney World and like those dudes walking around in the white suits?
The stormtroopers.
I'm them. What side they on?
So they're on the dark side. They work directly. Well, I'm not gonna get into a whole history of like clone troopers and stormtroopers and how the clones were made during episode 2. Like Attack of the Clones is a great starting point.
Okay.
When they walk around, everyone shuts the fuck up at Disney World. They scare.
You're right about that.
The adults stand in line. They move up. They don't even have to say anything. People see them coming. All you hear is music and chaos, and people know what to do. I'm them. So
that's why I said Sith Lord.
I respect that.
Because like whenever I see them, they move really slow and they just come in the room at awkward timing always.
Yep.
And then people are like, oh shit.
They
and
know
that's
what
me.
to do. You know what time I'm on.
Yeah.
Just like I've seen all the Harry Potters. I just don't really understand what's going on. I just know that that little boy should not have been under the stairs like that. So that was crazy. But every
I
time
agree.
I take a test online, they're like, "You're a Slytherin," and then I ask my roommate, and he's like, "Those are the evil ones," and I'm like, "All right, well, I'm just own it."
I found out I was too. And the whole time I thought I was like
everyone wants to be a hero, baby.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone want to be, what is it called? What's Harry and the Hufflepuffs?
No, yeah. Gryffindor.
Gryffindor.
The ones that's on the broom. Everyone wants to be Gryffindor. No,
on the broom.
Some of us are just evil, and some of us have to embrace it, and it is what it is.
It's true.
I want to know, how did you get to Star Wars? Like, you're not just like a fan podcast host. You are the official, like, you are the face of the brand as far as I'm concerned. How did you get that opportunity?
So it actually kind of came about through a D&D game. I was playing a D&D game, and a friend asked me, he's like, "Do you like Star Wars?" And I was like, "I love Star Wars. I'm specifically a prequels fan," which I am. And that's episodes 1, 2, and 3. Those are the ones that came out like when we were, yeah. Okay. But
have these sidebars with me, because I'll just be like,
no, listen, I'm so used to people not knowing what I'm talking about when I talk about Housewives that I use that in conversation about my other nerdy pursuits, because they are like, listen, it's like those people that know like every single stat about football. Like, this is my football. It is my football. Reunions are my like road to the playoffs. BravoCon is now the Super Bowl. Like, there's so much that like it all comes back. But no, we're talking about,
how did you get to Star Wars? You said it was a D&D game.
Yes, a D&D game. So he asked me about the prequels, and I ended up having a meeting, and they were like, "Hey, like, would you like to be a part of this new initiative that we're doing for Star Wars?" And it would be like a bi-monthly show on StarWars.com. And I was like, well, for real, I was like, stop playing. But they were serious. And so I like ended up like, I had that interview, and then we started filming. Like, they came and like did the setup and everything. And then the show launched in January of 2021. It was an interesting time, because some people were not happy about the show. But they weren't happy about the show. They weren't happy about me.
The host, yeah.
Yes. And it was one of those. So I don't talk about it much, because it like irks my soul, because it was a really like a rough thing. But like,
yeah,
they went like, somebody went and like cherry picked my tweets from 2020 and like during the height of things, and they took like a tweet where I said like, at some point we need to examine the role that white women play in upholding white supremacy, and basically anything that's like used the term white people. And they took that and they said, "New host says all white people are racist," which I never said. Like, that's directly like that's slander. But well, technically it's libel because it's written. But that whole thing turned into a mess, and it went viral, and people were like, die. So like, and that lasted for like a year and a half of people just being like really hateful and really mean about a situation that they didn't actually look into. They just like saw a clickbait headline and went for it, and decided that they just needed to like threaten me and my children in my life. So like, it's one of those things where I like was having all that. Like, that first day was like really rough. Like, I called my husband and I was like, "You got to come home. Like, I can't like be by myself." And he came home, and like, he just like held me, because it was like, it's the internet. And we think about this thing, and like in the event of like Housewives as well, like there's a whole person like on the other side of that. And no matter how many people are like, "Don't read that, like block this," like, to know that you have to block something, you have to know that it exists, therefore like seeing it first. And you've already taken that in. It's already like sitting on your spirit. So when you take that, and like, when I took the job, I remember saying, I'm going to analyze my analytics for this. So coming in, my Twitter impressions are at like 6 million. They make the announcement, it goes to 7 million. So the day that article hits, that morning, it was at 14 million. Like, so by the end of that day, it was at 38 million. And that was the vast majority of like those impressions was people who read this headline, thought that I said something and that I never actually said and would not say, because I try to be a generally objective person. Right. And it, like, they took that and like people ran with that for like a year and a half, and it was really, really hard. But like, I decided, I was like, I'm going to present who I am. And so it was also going into like 28 days of Black cosplay. So I every day posted myself in the cosplay that made me feel strongest. And I put a quote with it that made me feel powerful, like something that was like who I am as a person, not this like whatever somebody decided that they wanted to make of me because they feel away because I have a job that they feel entitled to, and the chair that I like, no matter what my level of expertise, my getting that job makes someone else feel like they have lost something, even though I've taken nothing that was theirs. I'm just doing the thing I love. And so I posted every single day for 28 days, just what made me feel powerful, quotes that made me feel powerful. And like, I could say, like, I could scream and like defend and do all this stuff. But like, no, I'm going to go and continue to do my job. And I'm just never going to let you catch me slipping again. And posting a video of me, because the one freeze frame that you have, I did my makeup myself and my eyebrows look busted. Don't ever do that to me again. And you'll never catch me slipping. Look at my show. She's flawless. But it's so wild. And it is. Clothes are armor. Clothes are weapons. Yeah. When I go to present or to do anything, my look is as much as a part of like my protecting myself as anything. Like, I'm going to go, and if I'm going to feel good about myself, and even if my anxiety is through the roof, because like after that, I did have really bad anxiety. I did feel like everybody hated me, because it is so loud that it feels like everyone in the world hates you. And most people don't even know who you are. You're not a blip on their radar, but like, you've been main character on Twitter for a day. And that's a hard, hard place to be when people don't read and objectively look at things. Yeah. And I think about like those housewives who come back and like, they're like, you know, they're in for like a bad season, and you know, like what the comments are going to be and like the toll that that has to take, where no matter, even if you've like leaned into a villain role, you're still a person. Mm-hmm. And like how hard that has to be, like to be in that thing. And so often it's easy to like look at people as characters or like what we know of them and forget that at the core of it, they truly are people.
Yeah, exactly. And I've never been in that position. So it's, I mean, everything that you're saying sounds valid, but it's different to hear it from someone who's experienced it, especially someone who, right, like you didn't ask for that. Like, you didn't do anything that warranted that. What you did was accept a job. People didn't like that you accepted a job that you were qualified for. And they actually sought out things to make you look and represent you as someone as you're not. But you powered through it. And that's what is so inspirational. And that's what matters. And that's what has kept you going and got you to where you are now. So it's just so dope to see. And I can't imagine how you felt at that time. But if that day that happened, and if you could look at where you are now, you know that it was like all worth it. You know, it was all worth it, and it didn't have to happen. It did, and you like stuck it out, because a lot of people would have just quit, retreated. I don't even know if I could have continued on, but you were so strong when you didn't have to be, and like that, you didn't deserve that at all. And I'm sorry that it happened, but imagine, like, you know, if you did quit, like you wouldn't have, you know, you wouldn't have been through the things that you've been through that are so good, like reach these milestones, host these things, meet these people. So I really applaud you for that, for sure. So on a positive note, like, I want to know, like, you told us basically that was one of your lowest moments, if not your lowest moment. But I want to know what has been, maybe Star Wars related or non-Star Wars related, what has been one of your highest moments, you know, since you've been out there in Hollywood?
Honestly, it's all going to always come back to that Hayden Christensen interview. Like, I literally had this man in my locker in high school. Like, after I did that interview, like my ex-boyfriend from that time in high school sent me a message, and he was like, I remember hating that poster and trying to get you to take it down. And I was like, nope. And so to be on this stage, like, one, like having someone trust you to be a safe interview for them to like be able to like be like, hey, like look at me if you like feel overwhelmed. Like I did the same thing with like Vivian Lara Blair, who plays young Leia in Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like this girl's like 9 years old on this stage in front of thousands of people. It's like, hey, like if you don't feel like you can look at the people or look at the audience, like look at me, like have a conversation with me, find me. And so much of that is trying to be a comfort to this other person. And Hayden Christensen is a notoriously private person. He's not like out there in the streets. Like he's not. Like he took like a 20-year break from acting because like all the stuff that he went through with the sequels. And he's a tremendous actor for prequels, because sequels, it's a whole thing. It's like the movies, the original trilogy, the sequels, and then the prequels. So the prequels and then the sequels. It's an order continuity thing. But like this man is so kind. And he came out, like there's a moment like when I was going to step off the stage and was like, whoop, and he like puts his hand on my lower back and helps me off the stairs, like straight gentleman nonsense. But that moment, to be able to give him his flowers on that stage, to like be a part of this moment where someone is in a room with like this giant WWE entrance, but surrounded by people whose lives he has affected, people dressed in costumes as him, people holding up lightsabers in tribute. Like this thing of like this entire crowd is there, like in a way, like we're in that moment of community. The energy in that room was so strong. Like even trying to like be like in front of a crowd that excited, waiting for like a person of this caliber to come out. Like so much of it is you like controlling the energy. Like you, like what are you putting out into the room? Like how are you controlling that ebb and flow of those feelings? And then this man comes out and I get to sit down and like these are comfort movies for me. Like this is a movie that I watched in high school and like saw in the theater. Like I saw episode 2 in the movie theater. That's the first Star Wars movie I saw, and saw that crawl come up and felt that music. Like that is my like entry point. And it's like with Star Wars: The High Republic show, like hosting that show, like it gets to be someone's entry point. Like I get to like ride in this thing with someone, like they're watching the show to find out like behind the scenes or like hear from the authors, and I get to sit down with these authors who have created this world within a world that is so beautiful, and to be a part of that. Like Star Wars, like in all of its, like no matter like the entry, and that's just a one wild contingent of like just people with too much time on their hands. Like that's not like the fans of Star Wars are some of the nicest, kindest people, and to see them around that stage looking at Hayden, cheering and just like making that man feel loved, like that is always going to be something so beautiful to me.
It was so beautiful to witness because you put the video on your IG and I'm just like, wow, 1, he's fine, but 2, wow, these people like really love him, and 3, you did an amazing job at the crowd control, at the interview, and it was so dope. You could just feel the energy through the screen. But we also know that you are a huge, as you mentioned, Real Housewives fan. What was your entry point at Real Housewives? Because, Aaron knows everything about the Star Wars stuff, but let's get into some Real Housewives. Like, let's get into it. Were you an Atlanta girl at first, like we were, or did you start from like OC? Did you get into it during the pandemic? There's just so many places that you talk to people who entered.
No, I mean, like I'm a reality TV girl going back to like Joe Millionaire OG and like The Swan and like that era of reality television. And then going into like, as far as Housewives, I feel like I watched Atlanta and I loved Atlanta. But there was something about like when Vanderpump Rules came, because you could go back and like watch like Real Housewives of Beverly Hills straight into it, kind of like how you do with Summer House. Like they're like, it's this little like doorway And like that led me back to like, oh, I'm gonna go back and watch all of Beverly Hills. And Beverly Hills, like those first 2 seasons are wild, and it's intense, and it's like it's very interesting, especially now, like to watch this current season and then go back and like look at like Kyle version 1.0 personality. Like it's very like you see that she's kind of like she's like more herself this season, like in her like renewal, like she's back on her like on her season 1. But I think the show that I think I like became appointment television for me though was Jersey. I was a big Jersey, like I loved Jersey, and like maybe I wonder if that was also because I really love Mob Wives too, because I'm big like VH1 like Love and Hip Hop New York, like all that Mob Wives, like also like that's on Paramount Plus. And I have to say like that and Bad Girls Club being on Paramount Plus seems like such a personal gift to me from the world. And it's like all I need now is like I want to watch Rock of Love, I want to watch Flavor of Love, I want to go back and watch like all oh my gosh, yes, I Love Money, all of the spinoffs, like oh, what a time.
Oh my god, Mob Wives. I think we made that meme that was like, sometimes I think that I want some of the people from Mob Wives to come on Real Housewives of New Jersey, but I realized that they would dog walk these girls from New Jersey.
Just say
specifically Drita.
Karen, get up.
Drita. Like I feel like Drita is one of the most real people that has ever been on television. Like unpolished, no media training, like just like full force, authentic herself, and I love her for that. Like I loved Drita until the day I died.
Straight out of a Lil Kim video, and
ever since she popped up at that Lil Kim concert, and Lil Kim brought her out on stage, I was like, yeah, I love this lady. Like, wow, how random.
It's good stuff. Like, oh, what classics.
Well, we brought you here because we just witnessed probably one of the best episodes of, in my opinion, that has aired this year. And second most dramatic, because Scandal was pretty dramatic. But the second most dramatic episode that's aired this year is Married to Medicine.
I have never laughed so fucking hard. Oh, excuse me. Like,
yeah, no.
No, you're fine.
I want to know your initial thoughts, because some people felt like it was too far, and then some people was like me, like, keep it going. I don't know what you can do next, but just keep this shit going.
It was so uncomfortably, like I cannot remember the last time I watched Bravo and was like literally laughing so hard that I was crying. And like, especially when they zoomed in on Heavenly's face. And I also have been like partaking in a little podcast by Dr. Heavenly and Carlos King, which is a wild ride. And I love it. So I love everything about it. I love Heavenly's commentary. And I just like, every time she goes, Carlos, you know I ain't talking about nobody. Like every time like she says Carlos, I know it's about to go down, and the next thing out of her mouth is about to snatch the side of somebody's head off. And this is what I kept telling you I had something I needed to say to you.
Yes.
So I would like to formally, every show that I go on, I talk about this because I love Bitch Sesh very much. So if it were not for those ladies and the prophecies that they put into this wonderful little show, Real Housewives, they predicted Phaedra transferring franchises. They never yes, it didn't go housewife to housewife, but technically she did. Remember the character Fei Fei? And she somehow like moved from Real Housewives of like Vegas to Orlando. Like she was like in both of those places, and she was still the same like person. So like, and that like, boom, that's her going and popping up in Dubai. But then next thing you know, now she's on Married to Medicine because of Dr. O. And like, they called it. And I will still count her doing that crossover as one of the first true trades of the franchise.
You're so right. I never sat down and like thought about it, because I'm like, this is like, because this happens in Love and Hip Hop, right? Like, Safari is on literally every
well, they do too much. Like, they do too much switching to the point where it's like, is Atlanta New York? Is New York Atlanta?
Switching like Ray J's hat in that scene.
And I still watch it. So I will just be the one here to admit it. I watch it. I don't care. I'm gonna continue watching it till the day it go off air. But I did not what? Oh my God, exactly. And then when I was watching Married to Medicine, especially this latest episode, I'm like, this is classic Phaedra foolishness. Like the dramatics, the thought into the dramatics, like
the repass
leading up into it. And she has Quad. It's like, it's me needing Aaron to come to wherever I'm at to like help me get this shit popping. Like the fact that they had each other to play off of each other was so important. So, okay, you are laughing. You didn't think it was too far.
No, I thought it was hilarious. And like, I don't play with death. I'm from the South. We don't play with death like that. I believe the power of life and death in the tongue. Like, it's my grandma. Like,
that, but
I'm not getting in anybody's coffin until the good Lord tells me I have to. Like, so good on Quad when she was like, no, I'm not going back in the casket. Like, I felt that. Like, it was like, it was enough for that moment, but anything else is too much. But Simone's laugh, Jackie and her, like, full, like, wholehearted disdain for Phaedra. Like, she cannot hide it. It is in her face. Jackie is not pleased with any of this foolishness. And you could tell she is just like, let me just have my little segments where I talk to the brat, but I am not getting mixed up in this nonsense. It's too much.
She's so over it. But at the same time, she's like, you know, a show is a show.
What did you think about, like, I didn't really notice Simone and Jackie so much. Like, in the main scene, it's Toya. Toya was absolutely annoyed. And wondering, like, what the hell is going on between the sheets in my home? Like,
baby, wait, let me explain before you start to point your cane.
Oh my gosh.
Let's not finish that, but if y'all know, y'all know.
Yeah, I was just about to say
no. Can't I miss as much as I miss it. No, it had to go from
just about Mr. Big's voice, nothing else. But it was Toya's complete disdain, annoyance, the fact that she actually said what I was thinking out loud. Like, because there was a part of me, I knew that it was, no. I asked Aaron because when the trailer came out, there was the funeral, like a preview of the funeral, and we're just thinking, like, who the hell could be there? And I'm like, oh, who do you think it is? And then Aaron automatically is like, it has to be Quad. And he knew off the back, and I'm like, yeah, it probably is, because you can use context clues. Everyone else was in the room except Quad. But then I'm just like, but what about if they brought back Mariah? Like, there was just like a part of me that was like, okay, and then, or what about if it was? So when Toya was like, okay, so what's next? Is Mariah gonna come? I screamed too. And it's the fact that like they decided to make it a thing where they're like, okay, well, if you want to clear something up, you got to clear something up. And when Heavenly was like, I'm gonna beat your ass like your mama should have, and then
tennis experts took me out.
Like, they went and they had dinner.
Specifically fried chicken and turnip greens. And I loved every bit of it because I'm like, if that isn't repast food, like,
not collard greens.
That chicken
turnip.
So good.
And I know it was. I know they had the crackling cornbread somewhere. I knew they had the hot sauce, the Crystal's hot sauce specifically. I know it was in that room. It had to be.
It was just so beautifully delightful and also unnecessarily dramatic, because I'm just thinking about like breaking it down. Like, you really, like, for Quad to get inside of a coffin, lay down and let them put the cover over her, let them roll her out. Like, she's breathing in this coffin. She's alive, and she's alive, and she's well, and she's swell, like she said. And then for them to like open it, and then for Heavenly to peek out because she's kind of scared because what the hell is going on at this point. She's peeking over. She laughs, and then we see Quad pop up. Like, it was just the most bizarre, hilarious, unnecessary thing that I've witnessed on Bravo TV, I think almost ever. It's so crazy. It was such a good time for me personally, but a lot of people are like, I don't play with death like that. That was unnecessary.
I was in the middle, I'd say, because it's like one side of me, I'm like, I know my mama would not be pleased, and she would be like, turn this shit off. But the petty side of me that just enjoys the dramatics and the theatrics, I'm like, I'm kind of here for this.
She did the damn thing. I'm sorry. I don't know what, and I still don't know what the point of it was, because
it was a resurrection, honey. It was a rising. It was the phoenix rising from the ashes.
From the ashes.
And then when she asked Phaedra, like, if you've never seen when she tells Phaedra, if you've never seen a phoenix, this is what it looks like.
Did you see Phaedra go? Like, Phaedra just realizing like the levels of like.
I think she realized on this episode.
Grandeur.
Like, I'm delusional, but Quad is on another level. And I don't know if that's going to make them closer or, like, grow further apart. Like, I don't know.
Well, the good thing about it is that at least we have Quad back in the whole, like, wholly and fully. But I did fear for Sweet Tea's life for a minute, because once you talk about Daddy, it's over. And I want to know what she was talking about when she was saying, "Oh, didn't you say you're gonna go up your husband's head one time or something?" I'm just like,
she talked about it on her live. She was like, "I did."
Yeah, I wanted to know, like, why did she have to go up on the side of his head with the frying pan? Like, what did he do? Like, what did Dr. Damon do?
She just was like, sometimes there comes a point in a relationship where you got to like set somebody right, and so that's what she did.
That's kind of like well, no, let me not.
Though I do not condone any acts of violence. Let me go ahead and clarify that we do not walk around hitting people with frying pans.
Yeah,
just go ahead and say that.
I definitely don't. What else are you? What else are you loving on Bravo right now? There's a whole debate going on, and this is another thing that I personally don't get into, this whole voodoo storyline on Real Housewives of Potomac. Yeah. I want to know, like, your thoughts on the Nneka versus Wendy situation. And are you on the side of the fandom that's saying, because I'm having a good time watching it, but there are a lot of people, they're like, this is trash. What side do you lie on with this season, and what side do you lie on with Nneka versus Wendy?
Saying, like, it is still so early in the season that sometimes, like, it's a sleeper. You got to wait until like the end of the season to see like kind of where we're at. However, I think so much of what's happening on the show is about the show, and we find ourselves in one of those places where people can't really like talk about what's going on because so much of it is like production-y related or going on podcasts and saying that someone's husband was having an affair and like all of these things that are like very, like, it's so very divided, and a lot of people feel like they're checked out in a way. And I will say, like, to go back to Carlos's thing I was listening to yesterday, and he said something. He said Candace Dillard is one of the most unprotected housewives in history. And I agree with that. I feel like they really did do some messed up stuff. And yes, her mouth is slick, but Candace is always responding. She is on the defense, so she responds defensively. I think that is a given. And considering like the things that have been thrown at her, literally and figuratively, like, I get it. Like, I would be in that place. But I also feel like if you're looking so much into this storyline, and with the Wendy and the Nneka thing, that is so much not what's happening on the show. Like, I don't even think necessarily it's even the accusations. So much of it is like, it's Teresa and Melissa. It's who used who to get on this show. Like, did you use my name to get on this show? behind my back, like that kind of thing. Like it's very much that fight to me.
Mm-hmm.
And like, one, Ashley should have never been in it. Ashley should have Ashley knew that there was some, like a little bit of like a fire, and she was like, whoops, and like just threw like a whole bunch of gasoline on it to see how much bigger it could get. And then it's like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. And I like, it's, the situation is tough because culturally, like, I feel like a lot of that is being used as a weapon, and I don't think that that's fair to either of them, or to like put it out there like that. And I feel like Wendy could just be like, yo, like, I didn't know her, it is what it is, like, let it go. But like, Wendy again has been on the defense almost every season since she came in, because she came in strong on her first season, and like she came in like, I'm sorry, postpartum, not feeling super confident about herself, not like sure in who she was. And I feel like Wendy's been struggling to like make her place on this show with people who don't want her to be there for a long time.
Okay, so do you feel that because of there's so many nuances to it, that it's affecting the quality of the season?
Yes, I feel like because we can't just like have those broken fourth wall moments to be like, this is what's happening, this is how I feel about it. Like, I feel like we're far enough into the social experiment to be like, y'all are on TV. Like, this is your, that's why I always hate when someone's like, you don't have a job. They're at work right now. What are you talking about? They don't have a job. Like, make it make sense. Like, the season is slow. They're at odds, and it feels heavy because you know so much of the stuff going on in the background. You know so much of like, I'm trying to hide this part of my life, I'm hiding this part of my life, I'm hiding this part of my life. So what am I watching? And I love Potomac.
It does seem like that, though. I would say the most like the meat and potatoes for me right now is Mia and what she's going through, because we're kind of seeing it unfold like off camera. And this is just the start of, her and G going to therapy and all of that. And it's real. Like, to me, it gives me Housewives versus this whole Wendy and Anika thing.
And I think because we really know that they're going through it. Like, we're seeing her at BravoCon, like, I'm in a relationship and I'm committed. Like, it's a very different, like, that's her reality right now. This, like, situation that she has going on with, like, the family businesses. Like, that's all it's real. Like, we want to see what's real. And if you can't talk about what's really happening, then something feels like it's missing. Like, we don't have the context. And then we want to check out because we don't have the context for like what y'all are talking about for real.
That is definitely a good explanation of, I guess, where I'm not understanding why people are not satisfied with the season. Because me, I feel like, okay, we're addressing Robin straight up lying. Giselle ain't got nothing going on. Karen and her grand domness, like, people are over it, and we're gonna have Charisse back whether she wants it or not. Ashley's very open about the fact that Michael is cock blocking her. Wendy and Nneka's storyline, there are inconsistencies in, well, at least on the show, in her saying that she doesn't know Nneka, and we're seeing the girl at the party. So and then on top of that, Mia finally has something like really happening, and she's honest about it. And Mia has always been honest. I think she actually came into the group wanting to really like just be a part of a friendship, and she wears her heart on her sleeve, and she's been very honest from the get-go. I'm plastic. I married an older man. Like, I was a stripper, even though she served lobster and steak at the strip club. She has always just been very vulnerable. So for me, I think it's better than last season, and I'm having a good time. But since you put it like that, I can understand from a different perspective why people are kind of like tired of it. And I do dislike the fact that, okay, now we got two Nigerian girls on the show and the two Nigerian girls are not getting along like we thought they would. They're actually like fighting. So it kind of just sucks to see in general.
And it just would have been nice to see Wendy have like an ally outside of Candace, like have somebody that's like, and I am enjoying the show. I think Karen is hilarious. I want to get to the bottom of the fence mystery. Like, I need to know what that's about. Like, for real. Like, I'm enjoying it, but there are moments where I'm like, oh, like, I'm a little bored.
I understand.
But that's all shows. There's a lot of those shows where you're like, this is filler, and I'm like, I don't want to see a construction scene. I want to go in the room. I want to see like what's really happening. I want the dirt. I want the conversations in the room while they're getting ready.
And I do think that Carlos King's podcast also adds a lot to, not a lot, but it adds stuff to Real Housewives and Married to Medicine. But I think that he's so obsessed and absorbed. Like, I love Carlos King. Want him on the podcast one day. Icon King, our Andy Cohen. But he's so obsessed with the Bravo shows that he's not advertising his shows enough. He's not invested in his shows enough. And I feel like his rant against Ashley was just so unwarranted. Because, yes, she's messy, but there's always a messy person within the group. And Candace is always going to hand her ass in a argument, in a conversation. So I feel like Ashley very much earns her check every single season, because this girl's business has been aired since the first season. And not only has her business been aired, but she has the nerve to go back and airs other people's business as if she doesn't have shit going on herself. So I think
she's a great bone carrier. Like,
yeah,
I'm not like calling for people to get fired. I don't want to see my shows get rebooted. I want to see like a couple chess pieces move around the board. But the thing, you know what I think it is? I think with Potomac, it all starts at the title card. It just feels crowded. It feels very crowded. And I think that the show itself feels very crowded.
It might, like, it's crowded. It's like a whole bunch of people are talking, but not many people are saying anything. But you know what happened? That happened on Beverly Hills, right? Like, they're in, and even Atlanta right now, they're not in the best state of Atlanta. So it might just be swells and, going up and down. So I don't know. The state of Potomac could be rebooted for other people, but for me, it's still working. And I think that we are still so early in the season. I think we're on our fourth or fifth episode. So we really don't know what they have in store, but I'm having a good time watching it. And I think it sucks that some people aren't having as good of a time as I am, because I'm watching the show and like, I want to get on threads and I'm like, oh, let's talk about this. But then I'm saying, oh, this is terrible. Oh, this is horrible. Oh, what's going on? And then I get on Instagram, it's like, oh, Potomac is not what it used to be. And I'm just like, come on. These are the same people who have just been going through 3 seasons of Melissa and Teresa fighting about fucking nothing, but y'all can't give Potomac, like.
And that's the thing, like, it is so early. It is too early to be like, I'm not enjoying myself. And I think objectively, like, when we're looking at these seasons and the time in which it was filmed, and then what's happened since. Like, we used to have like the season, we had a Bravo blog, and like that was our like little thing.
Yeah.
But now there's so much stuff coming out, so it's kind of like, it's like a Welcome to Plathville, where you're like, why haven't we talked about Kim's DUI? Like, what is the timeline? Like, where are we in this whole thing? Like, that kind of thing throws a lot of people off, to where it's like, well, this happened, why aren't we addressing this? Okay, Candace is mad about this here, but we're also still not hearing Candace mad about this here, because this hasn't happened yet. Like, we're in like multiple timelines. Like, the Housewives is the multiverse of madness at all times. It is just so much stuff going on in, like, it's a lot. I still love Potomac. I still do not want to see it rebooted. I do not want to see it rebooted. I want it retooled a little bit. But I don't want, like, I just want them to, like, be good. That's all I want. I want them to have, like, the capability to just be, like, have a lot of nonsense, but still come together. Like, I want the sisterhood. Like, I truly do. And when they're not talking to each other, it makes it, like, I still love it, but it is harder because you don't have, like, any of those interactions. Not even, like, an Ultimate Girls Trip level interaction between Candace and Giselle. I mean, it's just like, it's like Married to Medicine. Toya, yeah, like, she can't stand Quad, and she's gonna roll her eyes, but she's still gonna do her job. Like, she's still gonna, like, and she's not gonna have anything nice to say to you, but she will still have something to say to you. And I think that that's the point where it's like, you can't let all this stuff get to the point where you're running people off or icing people out or mad about something. Like, you got to treat it like a sitcom. Like, this sort of thing happened, we're moving on. It's a whole new interaction and mess the next time. But at the end of it, like, we can try to find a way to put some type of a bow on it.
That is literally the perfect way to put it. Well, we are wrapping up this episode, but before we wrap it up, you know that we want to support you in any way that we can, and we want our peoples to support you in any way that they can. Do you have anything coming up? Anything going on?
I'm trying to think of what I can and can't talk about. Yeah. So without you can follow me. Well, not today. And if you want to follow me, you can follow me on Threads and Instagram, Krystina Arielle. Pretty much all of my stuff is Krystina Arielle, except for TikTok, where it's Krystina Arielle Tigner, but it doesn't really matter because I post like maybe twice a month, and I'm just like, hey, here's a thing I did. Bye. So yeah, you can find me there. You can watch Headless, a Sleepy Hollow story on the Shipwreck Comedy YouTube. It is very good and very funny. And I don't say that just because I'm very good and very funny. No, I'm just kidding. I really did. But no, you can go find that there. Watch Star Wars The High Republic show on StarWars.com and look out on the Star Wars Instagram and TikTok for more stuff from that.
And we will be linking all of that below so y'all can support below in the YouTube video and on the podcast. And we are going to have you back very soon, probably to the Patreon, because I want to talk to you about a few other things, because I feel like this is 1 hour is just not enough. So I'll be right back in your inbox. But like,
it's not. I took 2 hours. I blocked out 2 hours. I was like, I'm gonna hang out and we're gonna talk some myth.
You know what? We have to do. You have another hour?
I do. Wait, hold on. What time does Dance with the Stars start? I can vote from my phone right now, but I don't get it till 8 o'clock anyway.
So what we're gonna do? We're gonna have you on both the Bravo's show and the Pop Culture show. So it's just gonna be Krystina.
Yes.
Although we're black. So we love you guys. We will talk to you on Saturday. And y'all have a great week. And hit us up on Threads and Instagram and Patreon.com/BravoBlack. And stay tuned for the next episode. Bye. Love you.
Bye, y'all.
A Hurrdat Media Production.